Hey everyone, welcome back and welcome to the next part of this module. This is part 2, and what we're going to be doing here is addressing extensive chart reviews. So again, this is focusing on workflow issues that thereafter relate to delays in note writing and taking notes home with you. So a big thing to be aware of here is ER chart reviews are not internal medicine chart reviews. These are not the chart reviews we did as a pre-med student or a medical student, where we find out everything about this history of this patient that actually serves to delay us. And let's look into that a little bit. And I know this could be touchy. Some people want to feel prepared, but we're at least going to address it as an issue. Here's what we're going to cover in this module. One is, do you even need a chart review? And the second thing we're going to cover is, what's the goal of an ER chart review, and where should we place a chart review so that we can get our notes done on time? And that's prioritizing our notes, actually. So in terms of, do you even need a chart review? I will first say a chart review can be very tempting. It can get us to feel like we are really getting to know our patient before we know what we're stepping into. And I just want to play with some of those thoughts and see just where our priorities can be redirected. So a lot of chart review may not actually be needed. It actually may be wasting time, especially before seeing a patient. And why do I say that? Why do I make a bold statement like that? Well, a patient might have a completely different complaint from their history. When we're in an internal medicine clinic and you know your patient is coming for hypertension, it does serve a purpose to look at their chart, see that they've been hypertensive over the last 3 visits and they've been on this medication that needs to be changed. But this is not what we see in the ER. We are seeing undifferentiated patients. Patients who may have hypertension, but they're coming in with a fracture, or patients that may have certain other issues who are coming in for a completely different issue. And over the long run, we're going to learn a lot more about that patient ahead of time than we may need to for their current chief complaint. And I'm not saying don't do a chart review. I'm just saying that it might be placed in a different section of your workflow. So just something to be aware of, that patients can come in with completely different complaints, and just doing that chart review beforehand might make us feel like we're knowing what we're getting into, when in fact it's a completely different situation. The next thing is, a chart review might actually not give us all the information we need. So it may give us a false sense of security that we know what we're getting into. For example, we could see a patient, they have a history of hypertension and diabetes, and they're having some chest pain, so we think this might be something cardiac. They've had hypertension for a while now, and this is most likely what it's something cardiac for their chest pain. But could they have other things? Could they have a pulmonary embolism, a dissection, an aneurysm, or something that wouldn't be associated with the history they've had before? And that's a very big possibility as well. And so that's the reason I say that just relying heavily on a chart review is not always the most useful use of our time. In fact, I've also noticed that we can get a lot of information about the patient at bedside or obtain it clinically. Most patients will already tell you if they have hypertension. You can also look at their vital signs, their lifestyle. Diabetes can also be obtained from history, a lot of it from their labs, and just generally the patient's lifestyle, appearance, and whatever they tell you as well. We always notice if patients are cachectic or look emaciated, and these are things that help us gather information about patients. And basically this is a section to tell you that you can trust your clinical opinion and you can trust your clinical decision making and rely on a lot of history and physical to get information that you would have obtained from a chart review. Thereafter, you actually can go into the patient's chart and look at their things, but getting to see that patient quickly and not doing an extensive chart review before even getting to the patient can extremely help workflow issues. This will lead us right into section 2 here. And we're trying to think, what is the goal of our chart review? And that's to add or change our current management plan, right? Simply knowing more about the patient could feel better, but it might not even address the actual problem. So in terms of when we're looking at the end goal here of getting your note done, a lot of the time I will see attendings, learners, they'll do an extensive chart review. They will go see the patient, and then they'll come back, put in their orders, and they might not even get to their note. I just want to challenge you to restructure that list of priorities a bit. Seeing your patient first and getting as much past medical history from the interview as opposed to chart review, because that will help guide your chart review. As opposed to having your chart review guide your diagnosis, have your preliminary diagnosis guide your chart review and what you're looking for. When you get to your desk, you will usually know based off the patient complaint already what to order. Usually a chart review isn't massively changing what you decide to order. We have standard orders in the ER for patients with chest pain, patients with abdominal pain, and generally we're going to order most of the same things. So putting in those orders is priority. And then I also want to challenge you to put your note as priority. So as soon as you get your orders in, getting that note done, and this whole course is focused on getting that note done, the first part of it in about 1.5 minutes, which is available to almost all practitioners here. So once those priorities and things are offloaded off of your mind, then you can go into a chart review if you feel that is still necessary. So without further ado, I will let you continue thinking about that and thinking about the priorities of a chart review, but this is something I commonly see that delays practitioners' note writing time. All right, thank you, and we'll continue moving on here.